Hi, today we're doing Black Forest cheesecake. In a very large bowl, you're going to add 2 8-ounce packages of cream cheese. Those are 250-gram packages. The cream cheese has been brought to room temperature, and using an electric mixer or by hand, you just blend it together. I just added 3/4 of a cup of plain white granulated sugar, and we're going to blend that together nicely. Then 2 eggs, once again blending. And this part I don't show too often, but I do scrape the sides of the bowl down as I'm mixing to make sure that you don't have any chunks of cream cheese that were missed. And just continue beating until it gets nice and smooth. And I'm also adding a teaspoon of vanilla extract and a half a teaspoon of almond extract to this at this point. And once there are no more little lumps of cream cheese, you know you're pretty much done as far as mixing goes. Set that aside. You're going to make the chocolate batter portion. In a bowl is 1 1/2 cups of sugar, half a cup of vegetable oil. I'm using canola, 1 egg, and 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. These will be the wet ingredients. We're going to blend those together and set them aside. And for the dry ingredients, I'm adding 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/3 cup of cocoa, unsweetened baking cocoa. And I'm messily stirring this around. You just want them to be combined. And you're going to add a little bit of the flour mixture and a little bit of buttermilk. In that white bowl there in the background is 1 1/2 cups of buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, you can make your own by adding 1 1/2 tablespoons of vinegar to 1 1/2 cups of milk and letting it sit. It'll get a little bit sour and it'll thicken up and it'll be a buttermilk substitute. So a little bit of the buttermilk, a little bit of the flour, and blend in between. And you're going to add the buttermilk and the flour mixture in 3 or 4 additions, a little at a time, and then just keep blending it together until you get a nice chocolate batter, which you will see in a moment. Now the pan you're going to need is a tube pan. This is a bundt pan. Basically it is a pan with a centerpiece. Now mine leaks, so I put a little piece of wax paper on the bottom to keep the batter from coming out along the edge. I'm also spraying this with cooking spray. You can grease it up well with butter or shortening as well. Then you're going to pour in half of the chocolate batter in the bottom of the pan. The recipe actually asks for a fluted pan, which is one with like fancy edges on it. I just have the plain one. Then half of the cream cheese mixture, then the other half of the chocolate batter over top, and then finally ending up with a cream cheese layer. And don't worry if it's not even, you just kind of want to put it on there by spoonfuls all around. And then I use a spoon just to swirl the layers together lightly. You don't want to stir this too much, just lightly to get a nice swirl pattern in the cake. Then you're going to bake it at 375 degrees, 45 to 50 minutes, or until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. Then let it cool completely before you take it out of the pan. And you can just loosen the edges with a knife and then pop it out of the pan. Mine came out quite nicely, didn't break at all. And I just want to show you here what it looks like when you cut into it. It is a nice, dense, moist cake. It is really good. And there's that wonderful cheesecake section in there as well. Very good. Now, Black Forest cake is chocolate cake with cherries on it. So I'm adding some cherry pie filling to this, but that is completely optional. And if some of you are wondering what I do with all the stuff I make, this one, I've sliced it up and it's in a container and I'm taking it to work. And I'm going to have very happy co-workers. And this is what I've kept here at home. I've kept 3 pieces. One for hubby, one for Max, and one for me. That's going to be for dessert for the next couple of days. There you go. That's what I do. This one I put some filling on the top. But it's actually quite good without the pie filling on top. It's very moist on its own. And I wanted to bring something to work that people could eat with their fingers, and this way they can just pick it up and eat it. Don't have to get the spoons and the forks and the plates out. There's the finished cake. There's a close-up of the cheesecake swirl inside the chocolate cake and some cherry pie filling on top. I also added a little bit of whipped cream, and I had some fresh cherries in the house, so I added that as a garnish. That's a big piece. Here's a smaller, more realistic piece. This was absolutely delicious. Give it a try.